This next step we're going to be working on is a modified contour drawing of your hand. So that means that we can look down at our paper just to make sure that we're in the right spot. So you still should be focused about 90% of the time looking at your hand. Before we get started with drawing the contour or the outline of your hand, we're going to be breaking things down into simple shapes and getting our proportions accurate using sighting and our measurements. So I'm going to start out by drawing a simple shape of a circle for where I want my hand to fit on the paper. So I'm holding my hand off to the side just to look at all of the proportions and shapes as I'm doing this. But starting out, I'm going to do a quick circle just for the placement of where my hand is going to go. So this is where I'm going to fit my entire hand. The next thing I'm going to look at is the palm of my hand. I'm going to break this up into just a circle for the palm of my hand here, and then I'm going to use simple lines for each individual finger. So looking at my hand, before I draw a circle for the palm or the back side of my hand, I want to measure this compared to my fingers. So I'm going to hold my hand here and measure the back side of my hand and compare that to my middle finger, which is just a little bit longer, but similar in size. So this circle should be about the same as my fingertips on the top here. So I'm gonna just divide this in half. So this is gonna be my palm, this is gonna be my fingers. Most of your hands will be pretty similar where you can just divide the circle in half, but if you want to take the measurements yourself to double check and see how to break this up, go for it. But I'm going to draw a quick circle for where the palm of my hand is going to be, and now I'm going to look at all of my fingers. Now one thing you'll notice if you hold your hand out is that all of your fingers kind of line up on a curve. So if I continue this curve from my pinky all the way across, and then it kind of angles down for my thumb, but all of these will line up at a nice curve. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that curve at the top here. So it kind of fits with the circle, just right above that circle that I have. And then my thumb kind of comes right to where the top of this part of my hand is, the back of my palm here. So this is about where the top of my thumb is going to be. So I'm just getting everything lined up and measured out. I'm going to draw these lines coming in so I know where the outside of my fingers are, and then a quick line for my thumb. So now I have a lot of this broken up really nice. Now I'm just going to draw out my individual fingers so that I have it spaced out correctly. So I need this broken up into my 4 different sections. So I'm going to draw a line for each finger. So here's for my pinky finger, my ring finger, middle finger, and then my pointer finger, and then my line for my thumb. So everything's broken up nice. The other thing that you can notice when you're looking at your hand is that all of these knuckles also line up at a curve. So that keeps everything nice and consistent. So this is about halfway. In the middle of my hand is my knuckles. So if I'm measuring the top part of my middle finger versus the bottom half, that's about the same as well. So a line right down the middle here. So now I have everything broken up. Now I can start looking at the contour of my hand. So my hand's off to the side. I'm paying attention 90% of the time to my hand and just looking at my drawing to make sure I'm in the right spot. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. So here's the outside of my hand coming up towards my pinky finger, and I'm bringing this around, looking to make sure that I'm stopping right at the top of my line that I had measured out, and then bringing this down to my next finger, which comes up and around, a little bit thicker at the knuckle, a little bit thinner at the top of the finger here, and then bringing this back out and around. And now I'm getting to where my middle finger is. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my middle finger out next, making it a little bit wider at the top. And then bringing this down. It also might help, I know I'm using a Sharpie here in the video. If you want to use pencil so that you can erase your guidelines when you're finished, that would definitely be helpful. And then you can always outline in Sharpie after the fact when you're finished. And then I'm bringing this down and around when I get to my thumb here. And then I'm going to start outlining my thumb next, bringing this around and back down. So this is about where my wrist would be down here at the bottom. So now I have an outline of my thumb with the rest of my fingers here that I can go ahead and start just kind of touching up and adding more details to. All right, so now I'm going to start adding the details. Again, I'm mainly looking at my hand, but I want to make sure I'm in the right spot with everything. So I'm coming back to my drawing every once in a while just to see that everything is lining up. So now I'm working on my thumbnail here, getting all of those details added, and then coming down to the knuckles on my thumb, getting those lines added as well. And looking at the folds of skin over here where my pointer finger and knuckle meet, and then coming up as well to the knuckle over here, getting all of those lines added. And there's lines on the top of my finger, and then my fingernail that I can add. And looking at all of the lines and details on my fingernail. And then just continuing on to my pointer finger next, or middle finger next, and getting these lines around the knuckles added. Looking at all of the different directions that these lines go. And then my fingernail. Look at if your fingernail is taller than your finger, if you have to add that coming out the top of your finger a little bit, and then the lines on there, if there's any highlights that you can outline, shadows, details, and textures. Getting all of this added on my ring finger next. If you're wearing any rings, you could even get those details added on there. And my fingernail. And then my pinky finger, I'm going to add the details for that as well. So definitely take your time with this. Make sure that you are getting all of those measurements laid out first. If you need to go back and watch the beginning of this video for those measurements and how to get things laid out, I would definitely recommend going back and watching that to help. Even look at the details on your fingers. So these folds of skin here kind of extend down a little bit more, so I can get that added. There's these details of your knuckles, or you might even be able to see some veins that you can get added. So really look at everything on your hand that can really take this drawing a little bit further to the next level with your hand here.